good housing for people like that. The people that I have that are in rehab, that are trying to get off, you know, heroin or coke or whatever, they walk outside to smoke a cigarette and there's 10 people there wanting to buy drugs. Because those centers where they're available, where they can live, they're right in the middle of the drug areas. So there's a lot of levels of complexity of why people don't do it. People don't engage in care with diabetes and stuff as well differently. This was shocking to those of us in the HIV community when this came out. We were all like, are you kidding me? Because that means we're not getting people engaged enough. They don't understand it. The other fear is they're spreading the disease. So that's the other issue. So that's some of the reasons I see. Do you guys think any other reasons why people wouldn't engage when they know they have it? Fear, stigma is the other one. Stigma's huge. People, different, like in the Latino community, stigma is massive. If you have HIV, they don't want to tell anybody. They don't want to tell their friends because they'll be outcast. A lot of the African people I have from Ethiopia, Nigeria, they believe there's other, it's a cultural thing as well. A lot of times their partners, if they're female, which is mostly I see, the males don't engage, even though they're positive, they won't come in. It's a cultural thing, trying to get past those. Stigma is huge, though, is another reason, I think, why people don't get out. So, any other ideas why people wouldn't come in? Anyone else? It couldn't be because they didn't like me. Of course they like me. I think that's it. Now, you had another question, right?
I did. If this type of treatment was widely available, would you say it would be more important to spread the knowledge with people that would qualify for this treatment, or do you think it would be better in terms of prevention to not let this information? I mean, yeah, your personal opinion, to not let people know about this, to kind of suppress the information so people don't feel like all of a sudden there's not as much of a risk behind having unprotected sex.
Prevention's always the best. That's for everything. That's for smoking, that's for diabetes, that's for high blood pressure. Prevention's always the best. If we can prevent somebody from getting the disease, it's always better. What I think you're saying, if you're talking about people that, because it's treatable, that people are thinking that it's okay, even if I get it, I can treat it? Is that what you're talking about?
Right. So I'm saying, like, would it be better to not, like, really let this information be known to, what specific information?
Like,
if a kid was to ask, like, let's say maybe they got a hold of some of this information on the internet or something. If a kid, and I know this is something that the DAP people here will address, you know, in our package, so let us know what to say. But I mean, in your personal, professional opinion, would you say that it would be better to, if a kid was to ask you, like, hey, I heard about this new way of integrating cells that don't have the genetic attachment thing or whatever that aligns with the viral cells, would you say it would be better to kind of change the subject and just get right back on prevention, prevention, and not even mention that information at all?
Yeah, it depends on how old they are and how they're thinking, but I would not do that because I don't want anybody to think, because what we're talking about, the cure, is way off, years off. You'll die before that becomes available. So some people tend to grab onto any little bit of, they take what they hear, of what they choose to take in. So if somebody could hear that, and they'd say, oh, well, there's going to be a cure, no big deal. You know what I mean? That they'll choose to hear that piece, but not all the other issues, that it's not going to be out for a long time, you know, they won't hear that. So with kids, I wouldn't even mention that. I wouldn't even bring it. I mean, if they bring it up, you could say, you know, they're looking at this avenue to look at. Hopefully one day maybe something will come of it, but I'd play that off.
Right.
I'm just telling you guys so you just for your own personal knowledge that they are working, but I do not. It's the same thing about people that have HIV that take their meds. We know that if you miss your meds, you don't take them correctly, you become resistant to the medicines. The medicines don't work. So the newer medicines we have out now are a little bit more forgiving. You don't have to take it quite as stringently as you did in the past. I never tell my patients that. I am never going to tell them that it's okay for you to miss some meds. Because people take that to, well, you know, you said, and I'm like, no, because they'll take it to where they want to take it. And if they miss a lot of meds, they'll be resistant. So that's something for you guys that I'm letting you know with the newer meds, but it's not anything I really want you to go out and tell the kids. I don't want you to tell anybody they could ever miss any of their HIV meds, right? You don't say, well, you can miss a few here. Yeah, go ahead. Got a question?
Okay, I have a quick question. So, you were naming some percentages earlier. Do you have any kind of statistics regarding like how many people who know they're infected and who are practicing safe sex? Or
There's older studies that haven't been done recently, and Julie, if you know anyone, the one I'm thinking about was, God, it was several years ago now. What that study showed is that people that knew they had HIV did practice more safe sex than if they didn't know. We also know that 75% of the new infections are caused by about 25% of the people that don't know they have HIV, or they have just recently got it and have real high viral loads when they're very infectious. So, but the studies did show that people that are aware tend to, not all the time, they tend to protect themselves a little bit more using condoms than people that don't know. And see, that's an issue where you guys can help too, because condoms, you need to use condoms all the time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have, you know, if you know somebody has HIV or not. You need to, because you don't know what these people have. You have no idea. You're sleeping with everyone they've ever slept with, and that's scary. Ugh. That is really scary. So, but they are, if they do know, they tend to be at least a little bit better. Come on.
Do you think it would be good for people to invent some kind of a drug that suppresses, like in the military, they have something called like saltpeter that suppresses sexual desire. So, like, can't they sprinkle that in like food? And, you know, because they're experimenting at way young ages. Like, I know a lot of my colleagues here have gone to like schools that like were middle schools, and these little kids are already doing things that I didn't even. No. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you, and I wish we could, but on the opposite end, I wish we could. But really what is happening is I think they're going to start co-formulating meth and Viagra. I think they're just going to make a pill that has it together because we're all using it and it's fun and party. And I think it's bad, but I think you're right. Because people that use meth or any of that, all especially the MSMs, they're using, you know, meth and Viagra, and so they're just screwing all the time and like crazy, and that's what they're doing. So that's another community that we're not helping. We're not helping very much at all to do that. But I wish I could do that. You kidding me? I'd love it. Just turn off, you know, everything until you're probably, God, 21. Most of your brain doesn't function because all the oxygen's going to your genitalia. So you're hypoxic, so you can't think right. You know, and you're right. I wish there was something we could do. And if you come up with that, you let me know because I'll invest in it.
Is your contact info?
We'll get some drug company to do that.
If you could put like a figure or a percentage on it, I guess, how many new exposures do you see through unprotected sex versus like IV drug use? And do you find like a specific age group or demographic that's more prone to infection through IV drug use?
Usually it's the older folks.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say probably 40s, 30, like the, you know, 30s to 40s. The younger kids aren't as much into the IV. Now they're putting drugs everywhere else to absorb. I mean, everywhere. But it's usually not IVs.
Okay.
So yeah, usually, and I don't have a lot of IV drug users that I know about, but we did a study, and that one study that we did, and what the patients tell me and what they tell a computer, two different things about what they do. So I don't have a lot of IV drug users that I know of.
Okay.
But it's usually the older folks. Don't you figure that out at KC3T?
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of younger yet doing IV stuff?
No, a little young extent. I've had patients in the 50s and 60s who will admit to recreational drug use, IV drug use, and things like that.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
I like the way you guys are trying to get numbers out of her.
We don't deal with it.
Because we want them.
Because we won't give them.
Because we never give them any.
Okay, I'm not giving any more numbers.
I'm teasing, I'm totally kidding.
Sorry for wanting to know too many facts.
I'm kidding.
Shouldn't want you to, because knowledge is power.
No, I want them, but it to be very powerful.
Come on, you gotta have some questions about sex or something. Jeez, I can't believe it. Okay.
My question is more about treatments and I want to know all the treatment stuff.
Oh my God, that's like a long.
Do you ever find that you get patients that come in that are resistant to like all of like the common treatment regimens, and what do you do with them?
I just go. That usually happens in two instances. One is with the older folks that have had it for a long time. The reason they're resistant, a lot of it is our fault, because back in the day, in the 80s, the only treatment we